Chapter 2, The Buff of Death. Evidence of all is in all of us exclusive. The health hazard smoking is the last scientific fact that declared by the Dr. Williams H2 with the Surgeon General of the Public Health for the 1967, establishing and demonstrating that no longer are our goal. Cigarette has been in the trial and found guilty. In spite of the warning declaration statement that scientific study that however 42% of the adult American population continues to smoke, about 50 million of the regular cigarette smokers puff the way out of the reality. However, there is some good news in us. U.S. Public Health Service estimates that there are 21 million ex-smokers, including nearly 1 out of 4 adult men. Dr. Ashbel C. Williams, president of the American Cancer Society, declared in 1967 that we recognize that our cigarette-ridden with a cigarette-saturated culture will be added, hopefully, with the behalf of all the smokers, just like the habit would like to stop, but do that. And one reason he said, with the indifference many smokers feel toward the danger of is a $300 million a year tobacco industry advertising campaign. Live a little extra, don't smoke. In 1966, smoking directly led to 41,012 deaths from lung cancer, 28,045 deaths for the other cancer, 145,956 deaths, coronary disease, 42,821 deaths from other vascular diseases, strokes, and etc., 43 and 726 deaths from all the disease, empathies, bronchitis, etc., with a total of 301,560 deaths. Meanwhile, with the comparison in the United States, 1966, there were 11,210 murders, 20,160 suicides, 553,280 deaths, automobile wrecks, 35,380 deaths of the diabetes, 128,000 of the deaths of the infectious disease, total of 2,481, 2,480,210, over 50,000 deaths less than from the tobacco. When you smoke, you take all your life into your own hands. Smoking is a deadly game. Dr. Harold S. Deal, Dean of Medical Science for the Professional Public Health at the University of Minnesota, with a new book, With Tobacco to Your Health, the smoking the contrary to declare, with another computation show that average healthy smoker is about 2 or more packs a day, smoking during the lifetime of about 750,000 cigarettes. For the result of the loss is 8.3 years of about 4.4 million minutes of life. The amounts of the loss of about 6 million minutes per cigarette of smoke, with a minute life of the minute of the smoking. Think about it. Every minute you spend smoking, another minute of your life is going up in smoke. Therefore, if you smoke, you need to ask yourself the question: do you enjoy life? Do you really want to live? Smoking is costly. Competition revealed that every dollar spent on the tobacco and another dollar pluses must be spent for a cigarette. Induced disease lost due to the missing work because of the smoke. In 1967, $9 billion were spent on the tobacco in the USA. For the 70 year, with the estimated $11 billion were lost for the American economy because of the cigarette death, of the disease, of the loss of work days, therefore, when you total it up, all the smoking amounts of the least of the $21 billion swindle a year, able to penetrate with the naive, the gullible American public. Is it worth it? Over 1 million people in the United States are forced to lead restrictive their lives because of the emphysema that incapacitates of 1 out of every 14 wage earners over the 45. The study with the British physicians show with the death rate with the bronchitis emphysema that for those who smoked 1 to 14 cigarettes a day, with a 6.8 times higher with the non-smoker. Those who smoke with 25 or more cigarettes a day suffer 21 times as many deaths from the cause of the smoking. During the next 5 years, there were Dr. Edward Gainsler, professor of the surgery, Boston University, some of the medicine emphysema will be responsible for diabetes, disability for the 21 million workers, all of them today, with 11 to 12 more million causes of the chronic illness here with the United States due to the smoking, but isn't straining someone of the gruesome Maccabee. In a way, the doctor developed a vaccine that would prevent lung cancer, protect them from the emphysema, the bronchitis, the heart disease, saving 300,000 lives a year. But that there would be a maddening stampede, but millions included inoculated with it. But even better than such a vaccine would be a simple step to just not smoking. You may be willing to take them in any way of this life, in any way look at the smoking costly, one of the most costly habits you could have. The average smoker spends $7,000 in a lifetime of the smoking habit. A person is smoking with a pack of cigarettes depends on $200 a year on a habit, or in $2,000 in 10 years, $4,000 in 20 years, and $10,000 in 15 years of the smoking lifetime. Think about it. Can you really afford to smoke when you add up all of the cost expense for the cigarette, the medical bill, with the decrease of efficiency, increase of the nervous system, the chronic illness, ultimately perhaps the terminal cancer? It could happen to me. Their famous last words, the idea of the person with the lung cancer, some of their horrible cigarette with the related hereditary induced disease strike him personally seems to be common attitude. May reject the idea of their own health, the effectively endangered smoke with the shame and the visualize themselves with the suffering with the cancer of the lung, gasping out with the agony, racked with the breath of the emphysema that also allows always happened to the guy. However, current statistics show that 75% of 100,000 men will die over the year because of the lung cancer. For the total of 350, every 110,000 men will die from cigarette smoke's cause disease. Lung cancer pale with a projection from the National Cancer Institute show that the smoking alone could more than double the number of the lung cancer for the death at the end of the century. But over the year of 2000, smoking could cause many of the 125,000 deaths a year with the cancer. If the current doubling rate each 10 years continues, 500,000 Americans could die of lung cancer during the year of 2000. Currently, each year with more than 50,000 Americans die of lung cancer, 95% of them 5 years of the time of the contracted disease. Estimated 75% of all of the cases of lung cancer are directly attributing to the smoking. Cancer Society estimates that the lung cancer will kill approximately 59,000 from the 1969 increase of the 4,000 over the 1968. The lung cancer for the Dr. William H. Stewart is the most common cause of the probable death from cancer and is increased with the epidemic proportion of June 14, 1966. 1966, the nation's top advisory panel over the cancer for the National Advisory Council said that the enormous man-made epidemic of lung cancer has hit the United States as a result of cigarette smoking. Only a few stubborn diehards continue to deny with the proof of the relation between smoking and lung cancer. Most of them have personal access to the grime, and the similar cannot keep the truth of the cover they are blinded to, but they will not believe the cover they don't want to admit it. Surgeon General reports declare the unequivalent terms of cigarette smoking is causally related to the lung cancer, and then magnitude effect of the cigarette smoking far outweighs all the other factors. On the basis of the TAR test, Dr. Alton Austin shows had previously noted that all men who came with him for serious lung surgery, heavily smokers over the age of 40, predicted that 1970 lung would be accountable for as much as 50% of the cancer in men. 1 out of every 2 men with the cancer would have the cancer of the lung equal to 1 over every 10 men living. Lung cancer was rapidly approaching with a catastrophic figure of the mass, moving faster than any form of the cancer, growing faster than any other disease cause of the death in the U.S. lung cancer death rate with the past quarter century with the quadrupled for the men, double the women. In early 1900, lung cancer was a rare disease. In 1954, the death rate increased to 20-fold among men. The smoking scourge. When you carefully investigate the whole subject, to tell you the fact that the statistics available, you can come to one conclusion: smoking is deadly as a menace for the health of the cigarette smoking. Does not only cause the lung cancer, but it has implicated with the chronic bronchitis, emphysema, the heart disease, the cardiovascular ailments. Tobacco damage can be the nervous system, called the progressive blindness, the condition called tobacco embolomia. Seen with the partial response for the loss of the sexual vigor among the women, and frigidity can be due to smoking. For several society, the reports has indicated the great incidence of the frigidity, sterility, menstrual disturbance of the miscarriage among smoking women. Dr. Virginia Apgar, Director of Research of the National Foundation with the March of the Dimes, covered more than a dozen medical reports of the heavy smoker more than 2 packs a day of an effect on the baby. If it's found with these babies that are smaller than the average length of the pregnancy, about half of the pound smaller. Babies weighed about 5.5 pounds less than birth, at least twice as high on the incident of the birth defects. It isn't just a lack of fatty tissue that makes the infant smoking mothers weigh less. Investigators have found these babies also tend to be short in length, indicating the overall growth of the development and have the retarded during pregnancy, with may have the result of the nicotine in the nose to pass through the placenta into the body, growing with the baby before the birth, and because of the high level of the carbon monoxide in the mother blood reduces the amount of the oxygen carried to the unborn child. Do you want your child to be born defective, small, retarded physically, possibly even mentally, because you've craved a cigarette? But what about it? And if you don't care about it, your own think about the life of your unborn child. If you have an expectation for the mother child, the physical fitness trained by the instructor for the British Army, you would have found with a 3-mile race for the average 3 times as a non-smoker were among the first 10 finishing for the race, with 3 times as many smokers among the last 10. Smoking and incompatible physical endurance and muscular power with the aptitude of the face for the contain an emergency requiring physical effort. But little known to many people is the effect of smoking on the mind. 2,000 experiments were held testing the effect of the smoking on the mental response, found that in all cases the smoking lowered mental efficiency to 10 to 23%. Pipes, cigars, and chewing. Learning serious benefits for the health of smoking may change with the switch of the cigars or pipes. Some of the other habits is another problem. No fact with the pipe smoking, the cigar smoking, even tobacco, the chewing is much more, if not more, to blame than buccal cavity cancer for the cigarette smoking, even before the turning of the century. Doctors were convinced that lip and mouth cancers were likelier to be seen with vibrant cigar smokers. Dr. Alton Ostner says smoking can also be due to the cancer of the lip, mouth, and tongue, and they can also with the smoking with the pipe, the cigarettes, especially the blame. Dr. Clarence Leib declared pipe smoking because of the greater fire or area of the hotter, the more irritating mouth of the larynx of the smoke with a cigarette with a medium-sized cigar, also contained with the nicotine with the other irritants. He also said pipe smokers get this cancer from the lips before they usually hold the pipe ends for the tobacco chewers. When they get cancer, get it when they usually keep chewing. One chance in 10 years. The American Cancer Society says if you're a non-smoker, the chance of getting lung cancer for the only 4,000 by say with Dr. Harold Shyrock continuing to smoke like playing Russian roulette confirmed with a heavy smoker for the chance of dying with lung cancer for the one in time. Is it worth it? Every day in the United States, smoking causes 375 deaths for the heart, for the circulatory disease, 175 deaths for lung cancer, 250 deaths for the other cigarette-related diseases. More than 800 die daily because of the cigarette smoking. None of these diseases are pleasant. Cancer can be excruciating, painful, horrible. With the chronic bronchitis can be sheer torture, burger disease, the small of the arteries of the finger, of the toe, for the obstructive curve, for the almost exclusively in men who smoke. Final stages can end with the gangrene and the forced amputation of affected area. Counting the cost added all of it together is not worth it. Therefore, don't smoke and don't start. If you don't smoke, quit now. If you do smoke, quit now before it's too late. Why do people smoke? About 700 people to 1 million with the United States smoke in one form or another. Estimated 2 million teenagers if you join the ranks of the smoking every year. There are estimated 5 million who smoke with the 2 packs for the day, about 4% of the adult population. Why do people start smoking? The actual data suggests that fewer children begin smoking before the age of 12, with less for the percentage of the boys, 1% with the girls, probably from the age 12, however the smoking gradually increases. 12th grade level of 40 to 55% of the children have found to be smokers, and 25 of the estimate runs higher than 60% of the men and 36% of the women. Dr. Horn estimates 10% of the later smokers begin becoming regular smokers before their teens. 65% of the during the high school years. Isn't any wonder that many of the cigarette commercials that they feature youth and invite to vitally excitement, fun, and these things attractive to young people in particular. Moshe, while they're young, chairman of the California Interagency Council for Cigarette Smoke, with the help of the reveal of the 10% of all of the 5th and 6th grade of the students of the California smoke cigarettes. Dr. J. Paul R. Baker said children tend to idolize their parents and initiate them and imitate them. He placed most of the blame on the parents allowed the children to smoke. The survey of the Fort Wayne, Indiana showed that almost 1 of every 10 people of the 6th through the 9th grade smoked. Their survey said it covered 12,000 students nationwide. Every day of the 4,500 youngsters of the 12 to 17 age take up smoking. An official of the Health, Education, and Welfare Department disclosed the statistic indicates one boy in 5 of the United States at the beginning smoking by the 9th grade. And by the senior year high school, 44% of the boys smoke. Overall, third young people in high school are regular cigarette smokers. Why? Dr. Daniel Horn says children smoke is largely dependent on parental example. In statistical terms, youth is twice as likely to begin smoking when in high school. Both of the parents smoke if there is neither of them smoke. The great imitators. The indicative of the reason when the children begin to smoke with a survey 1,307 smoking children in Hertfordshire, England, a few years ago. Survey revealed children began smoking to feel big in 254, to copy adults 221, to show off 215, to appear grown up 198. Because friends do 124, to copy parents 104. If you put a copy of the adult with the parents together, to find that the 325 smoke with the examples of the older people. If you don't want your children to smoke with the kind of example that you're setting for them, take another look at the reasons given with the children to smoke. If you have the appear with the grown up with the 2 you just mentioned, from the total 523 begin with this because of the fact that the adults smoke. Children in the world is greatest imitated, like father, like son. It is very true with the younger boys and girls wanted to be grown up. They want to be like mom and dad. They want to feel big, important. They want underlying basic reason children be able to be smoking. It all boils down to vanity with a desire to exalt, with enlarge the self, make oneself the most important with the vanity. Probably begin smoking from some same reason, and think back that is if you are a smoker, you probably started smoking because your parents did, and it seemed the growing up thing to do, the socially accepted. Also, your friends associated with it. Isn't this right? The vanity of the sheep, the instinct. Too many people, the victims of society, they do whatever the people do for the fowl of the herd, like with the dumb sheep. They don't think for themselves, they don't analyze the consequences for the cost, and When it comes to smoke with the cause of the numerous weird life it is about, what is it? Well, what about it? If you're a smoker with the real reason from the beginning of the smoke with the habit continue with the time, really because you really enjoy cigarettes, isn't it? No, honest to yourself with the sure with it might think of it as smoking help with the relax, relieve the anxiety, tension, but to do this medical evidence show that the contemporary smoking actually is a vicious cycle. It adds up anxiety, increase in tension for the clear. Him smoking calms nerves is one of the biggest deceptions of the practice. The Dr. Clarence Leaf said nervous smoker smokes with the relief of the tension, relief of the temporary with the smoke with the turn, increase with the tension, and then so goes up the vicious cycle. Dr. Hale Dingyman said smokers suffer 76% more nervousness than non-smokers. Said Dr. Robert Jackson, if one had needed a cigarette today because he became a slave of the toxic product, they nearly become the proof that the poison has started with the deadly work. The more man that continue with the webs, his nerves such help, the more his nerves will become abnormal. All the tobacco does is appease the craving of the cigarette addict. Let's not get ourselves with the reason for the people that we get down in twofold. First, they begin with the most cases because of the influence of the other people that we smoke with, the notability with their parents. And once a person is hooked, if it's smoking with that, he continues with it because of the relaxation relief of the afterwards, because of the psychological, emotionally, mentally hooked on the drug with the craze of the effect of the nicotine and entirety becomes whimpering. Scringling, crawling, objective slave of the cigarette god. The cigarette is his master, and he is his worship and adoring, trembling slave. Alright, truth about filters. What you say, but what about the cigarette filter tip? Cigarette with the filter tip, the protection helps safeguard you from the danger of the cancer figure. Filter tip cigarettes are dominating the market of today, have the big sales with the appeal of the smokers because of their claiming that either overtly or covertly with a cut down with the amount of the tar nicotine and thereby safer than the regular cigarettes. The fact, however, the show of the filters do an efficiency job with a greater number of the units of the filter tip of the cigarette with a higher percentage of the tar of the nicotine than do with the regular cigarette with the 4 year of the survey conducted in Stockholm, Sweden, with the reveal of the filter tip cigarettes with not always less danger for those without the tips. So the survey with the publisher with the Swedish medical journal with the analyze with the tar and the nicotine yield with the 35 leading American, French, British, and Scandinavian brands disclose the trouble the filter tips the cigarettes have the higher yield than ordinary cigarettes, but then ever even the tip of the non-tip cigarettes the same brand sometimes gave equal yields with tar and nicotine. At the congressional hearing on cigarettes advertising claim of the real with the manufacturer regularly sized cigarette yields less tar and nicotine with the same of the manufacturer filter tip product with another company put out with the filter tip yield less tar but more nicotine. In one case with the manufacturer valve filter tip that was extremely effective to effect for the first smoker, but there was a lot of hot air with the needless to say that the brand was very not very popular until the manufacturer modified the filter letting through more nicotine than tar. But in a nutshell, when in trouble, the filter of the good enough to remove the tar of the nicotine and the non-pleasure of smoke with the smoke with if the filter does not long let the ruin enough tar with the nicotine effect for the human body, but there is danger for the disease, the cancer, and horrible death. Studies reveal the very little tars for the nicotine remove the cigarettes by filter of the overall difference for the one brand with another negligible. For many of the reasons, therefore, the no filter cigarettes can be considered to have eliminated whatever health has been present in the smoking. In fact, some of the filters are more harmful than regular cigarettes because of the lower grade of the tobacco than they use. Dr. C.W. Lee declared the fact that the filters masquerade as an aid of health, while they are no such thing with in this mind with the shame of the filter. The Surgeon General report states that empathetically no method of treating tobacco or filtering in the smoke has been demonstrated effective with material with reducing eliminating hazard for lung cancer. Present knowledge indicated that it is not possible to filter selectively specific components such as the carcinogens. For this reason, the report will conclude that the individual personal risk of lung cancer can be reduced by eliminating smoke. The answer of not changing the filters door to the pipe. The solution in cigarette peril is to stop smoking. Chapter 3. You can quit smoking here now.